It's time for the Underdog. Robert, who
Thank you,
is...
Arne. Wonderful
I
introduction.
love to shout it out. I don't know why. Just bark at the chessboard as a typical underdog. Who is our underdog today? That's the
Underdog
question.
of the day or of this month, it's Shreyas Royal. He just played in the London Chess Classic. It was a round
Ah.
robin tournament with so many top grandmasters. And normally you're an underdog for just one game, but you can also be an underdog in a tournament for 9 days in a row. It was a round robin, all play all, and the idea that you're 2400 rated, 14 years old, and you're playing every day against somebody who's at least 250 points higher rated than you. Uh, to play it one time against such a player, you can mentally charge yourself and get ready for a game. But to do that 9 days in a row, it must be really tough. As of course, during such tournament, you got to deal with some upsets as well.
Mhm.
But Shreyas Royal, he played really, really well in this tournament and scored his second GM norm at the age of 14. And I would like to pick one of his games
Yes, please.
from the
Like, do you
tournament.
have any info about this fellow? Because I hardly know anything, to be honest.
Actually, it's quite interesting. We are listed on the same list for in the German NRW klasse. So we are playing in the same
Oh.
team. But
Oh.
frankly, we have never played together, so I
Okay.
don't know him personally. But he's very strong. Definitely, only 14 years old. I'm still a little bit higher rated than him, but I think this was the last time I could say that.
Say goodbye to
Yeah, and
that.
no, he's playing really well. Not only in the London Chess Classic, I think he also played in the FIDE Grand Prix tournament, and he had some good
Mhm.
results there too. So it's just a matter of time that he will get the title, and who knows what's more in store for
Okay,
him.
that sounds curious. Yeah, let's see what he can do. So he is white against Mr. Jules Moussard, very
Actually,
strong
actually,
French
actually,
player.
he's playing with the black
Oh, he's
pieces.
black. Sorry, pardon.
Yeah. So, okay, the situation is that he needed to score 1.5 out of 2 in the remaining 2 rounds. But against a strong French grandmaster, 26-39. And in the last round, he had to play with Mickey Adams. 1.5 out of 2, not easy. Let's see how that 8 round game goes.
Mhm.
So Moussard goes for knight f3, and we do get kind of a interesting line
Hmm.
against the Reti setup with the move knight d7. It's a bit of a strange looking move. You're blocking your bishop already, but this is modern chess. And one of the ideas is that after white goes d4, you put a knight on b6. So you're trying to control the c4 square, making it harder for white to advance the pawn to that square. But
Mhm.
very soon we do get actually a very normal type of setup, reminding us from the Slav opening. So let's just make a couple of moves because the opening it's kind of standard.
Sure.
Um, so both sides are developing their pieces. White is moving the queen to connect the rooks. Black is grabbing some space on the queen side with the move a5. And after the move knight e5, interestingly, black goes back with a knight to d7. So you may wonder what black has accomplished by moving the knight first to b6 and then back to d7. Well, it's that the knight on d2, usually it would prefer to be on c3, but it had to go to d2 somehow to support that pawn coming to c4. So black is offering the exchange of knights. And if you do take, then I think there are absolutely zero problems for black. You have traded one pair of minor pieces. Rooks are connected with a very equal type of position.
Mhm.
So in the game, white decides to drop back with a knight to d3 instead, keeping the pieces on the board. But now black plays the move a4.
So can I ask you for one thing? I don't know if it's our underdog protagonist. Shall we maybe flip the board? What do you think? Or did you
Yeah,
prepare it for white?
actually not. You have a very good suggestion, Arne. I've totally forgot
No,
about
no,
it.
me too. But now I just like think about it. That like, yeah, okay, cool. So now we get to look at it from a black point of view too. Hmm?
Yeah, perfect. So here we go. Rook fc1, queen b6, and now white breaks the tension by playing the move c5, attacking the queen, and the queen goes to a6. Actually, the queen could also have gone to b5, which is, according to the machine, even more precise, because you do retain some pressure along the b file. In both cases, position is more or less balanced, I would say. But queen a6 is a logical move.
So queen swap is almost hard to avoid right now,
almost
right?
there. By the way, you're just attacking the knight, so white gotta do something about it. White played here bishop f1.
Oh.
Going back with the bishop to support that knight. And I think in general, black should try to get rid of that pawn on c5 by playing the move b6. And in that case, if white would take, you can just take back, and it will be easier for your other pieces to move around.
Yeah.
The position is more or less balanced. But in the game, black played here this move b5. And I'm not sure this is a good idea. As we will get to see later, there are some long-term problems regarding a lack of space for black.
Because so white, of course, doesn't take back and leaves it like this.
Yeah, white is not obliged to take. Yeah. And therefore, white is now trying to expand to the other side. Played here the move f3. Black captured on b3. White takes back. And queen goes to b7. So what black is aiming for is the exchange of rooks along the open file, and then everything can get simplified. Okay. I mean, if that happens, things are probably not looking too bad, but white first goes for the move e4, which is kind of annoying because you're questioning this bishop. And here black actually made a mistake, but it's not an obvious mistake, I would say. He should take on e4, and I don't think many of us would have played this move. I will try to explain why giving the center to white is the right idea. After taking once, you go back with your bishop. Now the problem is that white can actually not really easily advance its e-pawn. If you do that, then you get a beautiful square on d5 for your knight. And well, with that knight on d5, you're holding the position together. Now we compare with what happened in the game. Black dropped back with the bishop immediately to h7.
And now e5.
But now the move e5 comes. And you don't have the d5 square available for your knight. Therefore, the knight went back to e8, but now the rooks are disconnected.
Oh.
Rook takes a8, queen takes, rook a1. White is controlling the a file
and
now.
white has an advantage now, right? So it's
definitely basically on all sides of the board. On the queen side, you're occupying the open file, you're controlling the center, and you have much easier play on the king side as well.
How can our hero, the underdog, get out of this miserable situation? You will see in a short moment.
Wait, what's going to happen? b4 was played, so now you do get a square for your knight, maybe to come into a5. Boy. And now, interesting moment, because I think the move played by Shreyas Royal, it's very interesting, and it kind of changes the course of the game. As you could wait passively with a move like knight c7, but I don't think the position is going to be a lot of fun. The knight will come to a5 when you're keeping your pawn defended with the queen. It's not a nice position at all. So what is Shreyas Royal doing here? Playing aggressively on the other side of the board with the move g5, and the idea is that the knight comes out to g7. Now, after knight a5, the queen can wait on c7 to defend the pawn. But the question is, if this pawn on g5, it's really grabbing space, or it invites white to undertake something on that side of the board. It can serve as a hook. So white played here this move, knight f2. So you do see some additional ideas of getting a knight to g4, eyeing the pawn on h6, as well as the f6 square. And I mean, there are various ways to react, but in general, I think white's plan is to prepare an attack on the king side now. It's difficult to break through on the queen side, but if you can get your pieces out, at some point white will have a pawn break available with a move h4 or maybe f4. It's just a matter of finding the right moment to do that.
Yeah. So normally this is it. When I'm black in this situation, I already feel like, why did I even start playing chess? And oh god, I just have to defend. I just have to find the right moves and all of that. So
Well, that's the only difference between you and Shreyas Royal, I
that's the
think.
only
Yeah,
difference. Yeah.
yeah. Well, so he just gets a bit provoked here. He played the move h5. White goes rook e1, so that you're kind of discouraging black from ever playing the move f6. Then you get a backward pawn on the e file. So rook e8, queen d2, and black is trying to regroup its
Well,
pieces.
yeah. There's a lot of minor pieces on that side.
Yes, but the problem is now that white is going to attack this pawn. That's the main drawback of having advanced the pawn to h5. Now the pawn is under threat, can even be attacked one more time by the bishop, for instance. So yeah, black got to do something. Played here this move, g4. Pawn takes. Pawn takes. The knight goes back. So the pawn is now separated from the chain, and it's very difficult to defend it because after bishop f5, white plays just very simple chess. It gets another piece hitting the pawn, and the pawn can no longer be defended here. So black has to give up a pawn, but the good news is that you do have a bit more space for your pieces compared to situation, let's say 15 moves ago. But this is very good position for white, obviously. With a few good moves, white should be able to consolidate its position and find a way eventually to convert that pawn. But this is the moment where people also get too relaxed, as we will get to see. Queen f4, the knight comes to f5. White advances the pawn. King h8, but here you can already sense there is a bit of a counterplay. When the rook may come over, the bishop can come to h5. There is a bit of play along the g file.
Yeah. So can I just so white is making some moves. Would it in general be a good idea to get that knight on a5, which is like not part of the game? I don't think it's necessary there, or is it?
Very, very good question, actually. The knight is not that well placed, but it also keeps the black queen busy.
Under
Because
occupation,
if you move the knight, then the black queen will be able to move as well. So basically, you can say that the knight also keeps the queen
I see.
busy. And well, I don't think it's for now a problem, but later you will probably expect the knight to get back via b3 to the center.
Okay.
But the strategy white is using right now with the move knight e3 is a very logical one, because you're trying to trade off black's best piece, the knight on f5. So knights are coming off the board. And now, interesting moment, as black played the move f5.
That is
so the
interesting.
idea is that if you do take, then your space advantage evaporates, and black recaptures with the bishop. And okay, it's still good for white, but there's some hope to get in some counterplay with major pieces on the board. It's also about king safety, and having advanced your pawns in front of the king, I'm not sure how comfortable white feels in such a case. So therefore, white decided not to take, and I think that's a good move, a good idea to keep the pawn on e5. But the pawn on e5 also restricts the mobility of black's forces. So white played here to move queen f4. Black goes rook g8.
Very good.
Going to activate a rook. King f2, getting out of the g file, and now the bishop goes to e8. And if you would play here with white, probably you think everything is under control. It's just it's about finding the right plan, the right setup for your pieces. And what you exactly have to do here, it's maybe not that clear yet, but ideas like putting a rook on a1 and then get the knight back so that you always control the a file, which makes it harder for the black queen to move to the king side. The queen got to stay there. Maybe at some point you reroute your bishop. You have to play carefully. But the move played in the game, king e3, it's very understandable. But
funny.
it's
I thought
actually
about
a huge mistake.
Oh my goodness, because I wanted to when you just mentioned what you play as white, and you gave the examples, and I thought, like, what I've seen very often, that the king is moving to the other side to a secure path, and I thought, like, that would be an interesting idea. And now this move is played, and you're saying that's a mistake. So now I'm curious.
Very often it's a good idea, because the idea in general is to evacuate your king. The king
Yeah.
is safer on the other side, and at the right moment you get a rook there and try to break. And then it's better not to have your king on the side where you're going to open it. But can you see what is wrong with this move? Well, actually, maybe king e3 is not the exact mistake, but it's the start of the wrong plan, because black played here this move, bishop d8.
Yeah.
And white continues with the plan king d3. This is actually the main mistake.
Oh, funny.
Can
Yeah,
you
well,
see what's wrong
now I
with
can
it?
see it, because I think now this move. Well, first I saw the queen can go to g7 now, because that was the preparation of the bishop going to e8.
Exactly.
Saving the c6 pawn, and the other bishop is attacking the knight once the queen goes to g7, attacking g3. So this is going to be trouble for white, I think. I think white might lose at least a pawn, if not more.
It's a possibility. On the other hand, you still have rook g1 as a way to defend the pawn on g3. So you're not winning the pawn immediately, but there's a very nice hidden tactical resource in the position, which is difficult to spot. I mean, even the super grandmaster failed to spot it during the game, but Shreyas Royal found it, and he played here this move, knight f6. This is totally insane, because you're hanging your knight, but the point is, if you do take, then it's rook takes g3 with check. The queen indirectly defends the rook, and you capture with check. After moving the king, solving the check, you can take the queen on f4. So that's the main idea behind this move, knight f6. And since you cannot take the knight, you're enabling black to improve that piece. The knight was really badly placed on h7, but it can come in to e4 on the next move.
Interesting. But doesn't the knight have to go back now? Yeah. I mean, like, after the check on h6?
The knight, actually, good question. Queen h6, then the queen can block. So you do force the exchange of queens, otherwise the knight will become active. This is a very interesting point, Arne, because after exchanging queens, the pawn on g3 becomes unprotected. If you do protect it now with the rook, then can you spot the simple tactic?
Bishop takes h4, yeah.
Bishop takes h4, and the g pawn is pinned. Cute. So black is totally back in the game. Let's see what happened, because they followed this move, rook to g1. But now the knight comes to e4. See the difference, yeah? The knight is attacking the pawn. It's close to the white king, and the situation is quite unpleasant, at least from a practical perspective. And I think during a game, you're really kicking yourself to have overlooked this kind of possibility for your opponent. So white moved the king away, king c2. But now it's queen h7. The queen is going to help as well. And the idea is that, well, the king moved one more square. His bishop takes h4. So the queen is helping the bishop. You cannot take on h4 because the rook is hanging. And, well, the beautiful thing, and this was probably even also overlooked by the French grandmaster, is that if you do play this move, rook to h1,
it's
pinning this bishop on h4, this looks very dangerous, but can you see the idea black had in mind here?
I guess it's just a check on g3, right?
Check on g3 is a possibility, but I think the king will go away. And let's say you do that, the king goes here.
Yeah.
You still have some issues with your bishop.
Okay.
So that's not the move black had in mind.
Oh, so okay. So, oh, that's interesting. So what would that be? I cannot really spot it right now.
Look at the queen. The queen doesn't have that many squares to go to, but it's a very surprising move. It's bishop g5. You're giving up the queen.
Oh my god,
So
I'm
that
seeing it now. This is amazing.
rook takes with check, king takes, your queen down.
This is
The,
crazy.
the queen is just trapped. And it all has to do with this terrible king walk. Basically, everything was wrong about this king walk. Even now with the king on b3, you cannot go to either f3 or f1 because it does run into knight d2 with a knight fork. You're winning back the queen. That's painful, isn't it?
That is so crazy. Wow, what a nice spot. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for a long time White thought that the pawn on h4 can never be taken because it does
Yeah.
open the h file. But if you make one mistake, likely the next one will follow soon after that.
Yeah.
Let's see what happened now. Black has won back its pawn, bishop c3, and yeah, you can just take the pawn on g3, and in such a position you're just a pawn up. Looks just really good and technically winning for Black, because I don't see how White is ever going to attack the Black king or the pawn weaknesses on e6 or c6. In the game though, they follow the move knight takes g3. So White still has the queens and the rooks on the board. Black is attacking the bishop, but the bishop goes to f3. Now it's rook g6. Black is trying to consolidate the position. The good thing with the knight is that it does cover the h1 square, so the white rook cannot go there. Therefore, this move, rook g2, is played, so rook h2 is coming soon. But now it's queen h6. Black is trying to force the exchange of queens. If that happens, you're also in a very bad situation. Obviously, Black is just a pawn up. White felt that instead of taking, it's better to let Black capture the queen on f4. Played here the move bishop d2. And if that happens, let's say if you do take, then okay, there's a bit of pressure against the knight. This is not that simple. I mean, White can try to put up some resistance. But instead of trading queens, can you see the better move here for Black?
So, also for you at home, of course, please, it's time to stop the video, think for yourself for a little bit, because that's what we have to do. If there's a chance, think for ourselves. So, what about... I just have to calculate, but bishop g5?
That's very interesting. It's the move played in the game because it's a forcing move. You attack the queen. Once again, the queen doesn't have many options at all. Has to take on g3, and now you take on d2. And you see also how important it is to have the rook on g6 being protected by both the queen and the bishop. So you do attack the queen. Queen has to go away, but at the same time, you also got to think about a queen coming into e3 at some point, and then you see that the white king is still not safe at all. There followed this move, queen h2, and Black just took on g2. That's a nice way of capturing because the bishop still protects the queen. If you do take back with the queen on g2, the rook, it's queen e3 check, and White's position is falling apart. All the pawns are hanging. It's a very strong attack against the white king. Therefore, queen takes h6 was played. Bishop takes g2. Now the bishop comes back to d2, which is a great move, keeping an eye on this pawn. So the king cannot easily move. Also, the knight is kind of stuck. And Black has a simple plan of mobilizing that pawn at some point, and it can be supported by both the bishops as well as the king can at some point just come over to help. And that's exactly what happened in the game. Bishop f1 was played, king g7. Now White is trying to get some counterplay with the knight, but the knight on its own is not really able to do something.
Okay, I'm seeing like one tiny tactic. Can we quickly just check if it's probably, it cannot work, otherwise you would have probably pointed it out. But bishop taking a5, c6, c7, but yeah, and
Your tactical beast. I
I
think
don't
the
know, but
problem is that after c7, I may still play bishop d7. So
yeah, and then knight b7, knight d6. But I think black's pawn
is
is
also
also
very
moving,
close.
and
Yeah.
that might just do it. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how
Okay,
about this move, right? Yeah, just
exactly,
f4 here.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
that should
And
be good. Thanks
then
for refuting this
the
line. I forgot to check it.
and the king cannot reach it because then the bishop will take on b4. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, perfect. So knight b7, king g6. And in fact, I looked at your tactical idea, but just one move later only. After king g6, look, for instance, if you do put a knight on d6,
Different situation out of a sudden, yeah.
attacking the bishop, well, the bishop should not go to f7. That was the tricky thing I wanted to
Exactly.
point out, because now it does work,
Yeah.
as the c pawn will become too strong. But after knight d6, the bishop is on d7, fantastically placed. It's as they say, yeah, bad bishops are protecting good pawns,
Yeah.
and it also kind of dominates the knight. So this is going to be a very easy win. The f pawn decides. So knight d6 was not played. King c2 on the board to bring the king back into defense, but
Uh-oh.
that also hangs the pawn on b4.
Yeah, what to do?
King
Wow.
d3, but now you do have two extra pawns, and at some point the king got to decide which side to take, and then the other pawn is likely to become decisive. Let's see what happened. Just a few more moves. Bishop e1, bishop e2. The bishop goes to f2. All the time this bishop is sticking to the
So
enemy's
annoying.
pawns. Yeah, this is very frustrating, yeah. And well, you're just busted on all sides of the board. Bishop makes some space for the f-pawn. The king comes over to help. White is just making waiting moves, but it doesn't change anything at all. Here again, the bishop is doing great job of preventing white from getting a passed pawn. Knight f7, b4. First pawn is coming. Bishop d1, so everything is still under control, but not for long, because the bishop will be activated now. Knight d8, bishop g6 check, king d2, and you can take the pawn on d4. So here you see the entire center is just collapsing now. White has a choice. He can take either one of these pawns. If you take on c6, I will take on c5. Black has 3 pawns up. That's simply too much. But also after knight takes e6, there followed one more check, forcing the king to go to an inferior square just before taking that pawn on e5. Here again, black is 3 pawns up with only active pieces. Here, Moussard had seen enough. He resigned the game. So that was a crucial victory for Shreyas Royal. From a terrible position, he fought his way back into the game. And sometimes it's nice to have a very bad position. You don't have that many good options, but you're looking for that few chances you may get, and that's exactly what helped him in this game to defeat a much higher rated opponent.
It's quite a fascinating game, I have to say. It was very entertaining on various levels. Yeah, at first, like, white just is clearly dominating, as it is quite normal for a grandmaster of this level to just make the moves. And then this king walk, which I was suggesting and thought of, turns out to be... Yeah, because I think white was too sure, and then... Can you please be quiet? I'm having a speech, my little cat here. White was too sure, and then makes like those tiny moves because it thinks like nothing can happen, right? And
exactly, that's the problem, that you have everything. You have a space advantage, you have extra material, you feel like it's a matter of technique, but that's where often it goes wrong for not only most amateurs, but even for strong grandmasters as well. So you got to be alert for the entire game, especially when you're much better or even just technically winning. Try to look from your opponent's perspective. What does my opponent want to do? And you often have to anticipate it. And it was not about finding the only move to win the game. There were many good moves, many good plans, probably even. But yeah, you should definitely not allow that one counter chance for your opponent.
yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. This was the last episode of The Underdog in the year 2023, but We are coming back in 2024 with more Underdog victories. Luckily, there's never missing victories of underdogs. They always find a way to make something amazing, and Robert is always on the lookout for those interesting games for us to study. Thank you everybody for watching and promoting, and check out Robert Ris' YouTube channel if you haven't done yet. He is analyzing games all the time. If you enjoy this is the channel you have to subscribe to. See ya.
Thank you. Bye bye.